Yep. Okay, we'll call the meeting. Thank you all in attendance today. I'd like to call to order the July 31st, 2023 meeting of the County of Perth Land Division Committee. All those that are participating online, I'll remind you to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce feedback. Before we proceed, we'll confirm attendance of the committee members by roll call. Councillor McKenzie. Present. Councillor McDermott. Present. Councillor Aitchison.
Present.
Councillor Trentowski.
Present.
Myself, Chair Duncan, I'm present as well. I get a motion that the July 31st, 2023 agenda be approved. Moved by Councillor McDermott, seconded by Councillor Trentowski. All those in favor? Carried. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along. I get a motion that the Land Division Committee approve the minutes from June 26th, 2023. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Aitchison. Any discussion, questions, comments, those minutes? Okay, I don't see any. All those in favor? That's carried. And move along to item 5, application for consent to sever B1723 or 985069 Perth Oxford Road. And Andrea, you're looking after that one?
I'll just move up over here so that I'm easier to hear. Okay, so this application is an application to sever the subject lands, and it's actually a fairly straightforward application, as in it is just simply for a lot addition. If you want to move to so there's the general location. The subject lands are described as 985069 Perth Oxford Road and are located in the township of Perth East. And if you want to move to the next slide, please. Perfect. So as you can see, this application is for a minor lot adjustment. And as you can see, it's to correct a historical issue where there's been encroachment from the residential lot onto the larger agricultural parcel. And so the Logans have agreed to sever the lands and add them to the residential parcel to correct any of the encroachments that have existed. The severed land, which is that yellow skinny triangle, is a total area of 3,195 square meters. And it currently contains a portion of the single detached dwelling, as well as the larger part of an accessory structure, which you can see up in the north end. Once the severance is completed, the lands will be merged with the residential parcel. And then the larger parcel, the lands to be retained will mostly be unaffected. They'll just lose that sliver, but the sliver is not in agricultural production, as you can see right now. And the retained lands have a residential dwelling as well as accessory farm buildings. So the provincial policy statement does allow for minor lot adjustments and lot creations. And in this case, and it has to meet a number of criteria. In this case, we don't feel that it is impacting the overall agricultural production. It's fairly minor, and it's, like I said, will correct the historical issue that's been occurring. And then similarly, the Perth County official plan has similar policies that support minor boundary adjustments. And with this, MDS does not apply. And so because nothing is changing, there's no implications for MDS. The subject lands, both the severed, retained, and enlarged, are zoned agricultural. And so there are no issues there. There are no issues with any sort of lot deficiencies being created on the the retained lands. The application was given public notice, and we received correspondence from Paul Robinson, the solicitor acting on behalf of Wayne Shum, who owns the residential parcel. And there was issue raised with respect to potentially a driveway on the severed parcel, potentially needing an easement so that there are no issues with that. And that'll be confirmed through a survey. we've included a condition for that easement if it's required. And then just simply if it's not required, once we receive the survey, then we would just clear it. So there's no further issues with that. And then the application was also brought to Perth East Council and they were supportive of the application and the proposed conditions. So in light of our review, we would recommend this application be approved subject to the conditions.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this application other than the applicant? Okay, I don't see anyone. Anyone that would like to speak in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Please come forward and state your name for the record, please. Just come on right up here.
My name's Wayne Shum and I own the adjoining property. On the picture up there, I'd like to say good morning to everyone, committee members, planners, Perth County in general. I'd like to say, and those viewing online, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have time to speak here today. We own 13-acre parcel with approximately 1,000 trees on it. And approximately 3 months ago, we received an application for consent from Perth County because we are a neighbor for a lot line correction between our two adjoining neighbors. With a closer review of the aerial images, we noticed an alarming issue. Our eastern property line had moved westward, encompassing our home and shop. So we were quite alarmed about that. After realizing this, we attempted to contact Perth County with no response. Time was ticking, so. Time was of the essence. I felt we needed a lawyer to speak on our behalf, which we retained. After 2 more attempts to rectify the line, it was finally corrected and realigned. Property stakes of my immediate neighbor, Mr. Crop next door. Stakes are in place there. At this time, we believe the situation was settled. We also assumed that both of our adjoining neighbors would then resume correcting their lot line issues. Then on July 14th, we were informed that Mr. Logan wanted to do a land survey because of his belief that our driveway encroached on his property. It was at this point I felt I should oppose this motion so I could come and speak my piece at a meeting. That's what brought me here today. I'd like to call to your attention that at no point throughout this entire process has our names ever been mentioned or included on any application. I hesitate to think of what may have happened if we were complacent in this matter and allowed a simple lot line correction between our neighbors to engulf and extremely significantly a big part of our dwelling. I was also puzzled when I received the request through our lawyer from Mr. Logan to perform a survey next to our property, knowing that our fence line, which has been there for over 50 years, which also has 30-foot spruce trees planted on our side of it. Approximately, I lost this here, sorry. For over 50 years and is direct correspondence with the stakes surveyed by Mr. Krupp's property, the most recent survey. Furthermore, there have been approximately 5 property ownership changes or exchanges since I have been living there. I've been there since 87. So I'm in my 38th year. Never at any point has there been a dispute or any doubt whatsoever pertaining to where our property lines lie. In closing, I would like to see my neighbors continue to rectify the lot line corrections on their properties and leave us out of it. We've been in every step of this. We felt we had to get involved. I'm sure if anyone else here found out their home was now going to their neighbor, they'd be a little concerned. I'd like to mention that over the past 3 months, this matter has caused considerable stress on our family. Matter of fact, my wife couldn't bring herself to be here and attend this meeting today, so. Once again, I would like to thank the Land Division Committee for considering my input. And I sincerely hope common sense will prevail in this decision. And our neighbors will revert back to their original proposals to correct their property lines on their respective properties. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Do we have anyone online? Okay. Applicant or applicant's agent? Okay. Committee members, questions, comments? Councilman McDermott?
If there's already been a survey done, why would there have to be a second survey done?
Through the chair to the question, my understanding is that there's uncertainty exactly where the driveway is. And so I'm assuming that the survey would need to be an as-built survey to identify exactly the location of the driveway.
Okay, but if it's already been done once, and who would pay for this survey then?
It's generally the cost of the applicant.
Okay, so Mr. Schum wouldn't have to pay for this,
Correct.
but there's already stakes there showing everything is perfect.
So if the survey, when we review the survey, if it's clear that the driveway is on one property and isn't straddling a lot line, then we can just clear the condition. We won't require a subsequent survey to confirm basically what we already know. So we'll review that through when we're clearing the conditions.
Okay, if it shows that there is this easement that you're needed, who has to pay for that? And then what would happen?
So generally the easement would have to be a reciprocating easement. So basically it's there would be a strip on the one parcel and a strip on the other parcel. And then we require a reciprocating easement so that they can cross right down the center of the lane, depending on the actual location and the lot line. And then the easement would have to be an application on behalf of both property owners. So if there's a parcel that falls on Mr. Shum's property, then he would be required to submit an application for that easement as well.
Okay, but then the easement, he would own that, like he would totally own that.
He has rights in perpetuity over that parcel, and then there would generally be an agreement. And so with respect to, say, snow removal, and then, maintenance, there would be requirements that you couldn't put a fence up down the center of it so that it could always be passable as an access. That type of thing. Alternatively, if the owners didn't want to have a shared driveway, I mean, the driveway could be moved entirely on the parcel. And again, we could remove that condition, that we could still be satisfied with that condition if we understood that was what was agreeable to both parties.
And that would be in perpetuity, right? So the next owner, and that would be put on your deed then.
Well, if the driveway is relocated, then it just stays entirely with the subject property, right? But if there's reciprocating easements, they stay on the deeds forever.
Any other committee members have questions or comments to this? I guess my question is, would this application be better served to be deferred until after the survey? And then we wouldn't have to worry about clearing the condition? To be a little more clear to the planning department then once the survey was done, where to move forward?
To your question, the only issue with that would be that, oh no, I lost my train of thought. Yes, if ultimately, if the committee is more comfortable with that, I mean, I did inherit this file, so I, wrote the report and yeah, if the committee feels that it would be better served if we had more time. I know what I was gonna say, the only issue with requiring the survey up front, I mean, we can check the one that's already existing to see if it provides us with enough information. The only other issue is if we ask the applicant to provide us with another survey at this point in time, then it's in advance of approval. They potentially have spent that money, and then if the committee decides not to approve it, then it's an added cost for them. Alternatively, I'm happy to, if you wanted to defer it, I'm happy to go back and check the survey and provide the committee with that information at that point in time, or potentially consider the idea of the driveway being relocated so that it doesn't have to, we don't need easements.
Okay, I guess we'll leave it to the committee to.
I would move that we defer.
Councillor McDermott is making a motion for deferral. And get a seconder, Councillor Tantowski. Questions, comments to that? Okay, all those in favor? All in favor? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's carried. Okay, we have application for consent to sever B1923 for 11 Cobalt Street North, Milverton. Henry, you're going to take that one too?
Yes. So this is an application for the creation of a residential lot in the village of Milverton. The lands are located at 11 Cobalt Street North and in the township of Perth East. So I'm going to skip to the next one. Perfect. So this application proposes to sever the subject lands. And as you can see, this application in particular is B1923. So this application just is proposing to sever the lands that are outlined in yellow and then retain the lands that are outlined in red. And then you'll see that the lands outlined in green and blue are for subsequent severances that the applicant has also applied for. But today the committee is just simply dealing with the yellow parcel and then the red parcel. And so as you can see, the subject land or the lands to be severed are 0.43 acres in area. And then the retained parcel will be 8,778 square feet or 750.5 square meters. And then the severed parcel has 45.9 meters of frontage and 19.7 meters for the retained parcel. So they're adequately sized parcels. The subject lands currently, or I should say the lot to be retained currently has a single detached dwelling and a detached garage. And then the lands to be severed have an attached deck from the retained lands, which the applicant has indicated they will remove. And we have included a condition that will ensure that that happens as well. The provincial policy statement speaks to infill and intensification and underutilized, good planning for underutilized lands as well as existing infrastructure. So in this case, we feel that the application is consistent with that direction from the province. It's also a settlement area where we would like to direct infill and intensification. And then the Milverton official plan also has designated these lands residential, which supports single, semis, duplexes, townhouses, and multifamily dwellings. The subject lands are zoned low density residential and they're R1. And so the proposed lot to be severed and the proposed lot to be retained are in keeping with the requirements of the R1 zone. The application was circulated to a number of agencies and also to the public. There was concern raised by a neighbor with respect to the water drainage at 7 Cobalt Street. However, in this case, the planner who wrote the report is satisfied that this The drainage issue is not affected by this severance, B1923. It's actually potentially will be considered through the subsequent severances. And so those, again, will be brought to you at a later date and we'll have considered the drainage at that point in time. With respect to, we are satisfied that this application is consistent with the provincial policy statement as well as the Milverton official plan. And as I indicated, it's in keeping with the zoning in the R1 zone. So in light of that, we would recommend that this application also be approved, subject to the conditions that I've included.
Thank you. Great. I'll ask if there's anyone that would like to speak in support of this application other than the applicant. Yeah, I don't see anyone. Anyone like to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. The applicant or applicant's agent?
Hi, good morning. I'm Brandon Llewellyn, GSP Group. I'm the agent for the application. Joined today as well by Mr. Ronald Martin from Southside Estates. We're in support of the staff report as written and are okay with the conditions that are included. You'll note in the staff report that when it was at local council, there wasn't support of it because of the size of the lot to be created. But as Andrew said in her report, the lot meets all of the zoning requirements and is in conformity with the official plan as well. So I think it's a reasonable request based on that. And, it could be subject to future applications as well once the parcel is created. So it's essentially at this point cutting the large lot in half, and there's a number of conditions to be satisfied, but they all seem reasonable. So we're supportive of the staff report.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, committee members, questions, comments? Okay, I don't see any. So I have a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives application for consent to sever B1923 11 Cobalt Street North report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approve the application for consent to sever B1923 submitted by Brandon Llewellyn on behalf of Southside Estates Inc. for lands described as Lot 8, Concession 4, Milverton Ward, Perth East, subject to the conditions within the report. Moved by Councillor McDermott, seconded by Councillor Aitchison. Questions, comments? Okay. All those in favor? It's carried.
Thank you.
The application for consent to sever B1223 for 60 Victoria Street, Mitchell.
Yes, thank you, committee. I'm glad to present this application to you this morning. So the consent B1223 is for the Mitchell community. It's in the western portion area, just a block south of Huron Road on Victoria Street. Surrounding land uses are residential in nature, and this is to create one lot for residential use. So next page. As I said, it's within the Mitchell settlement area. The zoning is Mitchell Residential Low Density Zone 2. And the application has been submitted concurrently with the zoning bylaw amendment. And the purpose is to create a new residential home for the applicant's family to occupy. This application represents what we know as residential intensification. So they are using an underutilized portion of the lot to increase density, which is something that's promoted by both the provincial policy statement and the Mitchell and Perth County official plans. Next page. So here we have a more detailed sketch of what is proposed. So the existing residence on the left there was built in 1953, has an attached garage. And the lot to the right, outlined in red, will be the proposed new lot where the new residential home will be going. The zoning bylaw amendment is to address a reduction in lot area and lot frontage from 475 square meters to 373 square meters, and from 15 meters to 11.7 meters at the street. This proposal will meet all other requirements of the zoning bylaw for the R2 zone. And on the next page, I just have a couple pictures showing you the site. So on the right there is the existing house, and to the left there will be where the new lot is proposed. And next slide, we have the rear yard. So that's looking out from the back of the property. On the next slide. So a concern that has been stated among many of the members of the public who have written in about this proposal, as well as planning staff when we initially reviewed this, was stormwater management. There was concerns initially that there might be a stormwater management easement that runs through the land. There is a catch basin on the property that you see in the photo to the right. We have been in discussion with Public Works, the municipal engineer, and the building department. And what was required for this application was that the applicant submit a lot grading and drainage plan to show that the house could adequately address stormwater. The plans that have been submitted have been reviewed by West Perth staff, and they are adequate. There is no municipal easement registered over any of these lands, and there's no records of the private catch basin that is there. And that isn't to say that the residents' concerns of stormwater management is misplaced. It's just to say that the measures that we have to ensure that stormwater for this property will be handled have been addressed by the applicant through this plan. And this, the lot grading and drainage plan would be submitted regardless of building permit being submitted for this application. And as the committee is aware, Bill 23 has as of right zoning settlement areas. So if an accessory residential use was going here, they would still have to do this. So the planning department is satisfied that they have met the requirements for stormwater. And then we're going to go to the next slide. Quite a few of the other concerns have to deal with land use compatibility. So does having a smaller residential lot in this neighborhood make sense? There's been concerns of adequate off-street parking, snow removal, backyard recreational space and amenity space, and then some further tangential things such as impact on property values, and just kind of the look of the neighborhood of how this will change having this house in there. And to some of those concerns, the reality is that there will be space on the lot for free parking spaces, which is required by the zoning bylaw. There's a backyard space. There's going to be space for snow removal. And the applicants were asked to submit a design to kind of show that what the house would look like. So this is the front and rear building faces. And if you want to go to the next slide, Tyler, we have the side yard. So it is going to be a smaller house, which is different from what is existing on Victoria Street already. But it's definitely not out of place, and it is permitted within the R2 zone. So the planning department is supporting this application because we believe that it supports a range of housing options within the Mitchell community. And is supportive by the provincial policy statement, the Mitchell official plan, promotes a development form that is compact and provides greater efficiency. So we'll be better able to use our public services that already exist. And it helps in the protection and preservation of farmland and sprawl from occurring on the outer edges of our community. So there have been a number of residents that have written in and have attended the meeting for the zoning bylaw amendments. And I believe a few of them are here today to speak with you. So I'm happy to answer any further questions, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Jerica. Okay, this time I'm gonna ask for anyone that wants to speak in support of the application other than the applicant. Yeah, I don't see anyone. Those that would like to speak in opposition to the applicant, application? Okay, please come forward and state your name for the record.
Thank you for hearing my concerns. I'm Mike Free. I live at 57 Albert Street, which is a property directly behind proposed property. We have a number of concerns, and I'd just like to reiterate that there is the petition of 38 people who are opposed to this because of the change to the neighborhood and the drainage problem. I understand that the drainage problem seems to be addressed. However, if I have water in my basement, I want to know who I can blame because I haven't had it in 5 years. I'm Mike Free. I live at 57 Albert Street. I just have a few things written down I'd like the committee to hear. We are opposed to the severance and the reduction in frontage because I think it will change the perception of the neighborhood. We purchased our house in 2018 and were assured by John Ward, the previous owner, that this lot could not be built on because of the drainage. And the drainage, I think, talked to Jerica about it. It was graded by the company in Goderich who set up the subdivision, and that drainage has been, well, it does drain our backyard into their backyard. And we're concerned that if they change the drainage, we'll have problems, not just us, but other neighbors around us. If the change goes through, who will be responsible if I have water in my basement? Will it be Hans? Will it be the town? Or who do we go to say we need it fixed? And I'm just wondering why, as a committee, you would consider reducing an established frontage required for the lot in a residential neighborhood. I understand that provincial government allows you to reduce and infill everything, but I'm not in favor of that. I think our community and neighborhood are not in favor of that. The other thing I'd like to mention is, you know, with all due respect to the committee and your work here, doesn't really matter. Provincial legislation allows you to do this, but if 38 residents are opposed to it, and they've registered their disapproval to the severance and change the lot size in the area of drainage concerns. If our views don't count, why do you ask us for input? And with all due respect to the work that you guys do, I appreciate it, but if you don't listen to your public, I have problems with that. And thank you for your consideration. Know that concerns are real. The neighbors are concerned. They don't want this, and appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? So
Somebody on the line?
we got. Valerie, you're gonna bring them in?
Hello,
Welcome. Go ahead. Please state your name for the record.
Julie and Chad Bree.
Thank you. Go ahead.
We understand and can appreciate the time, money, and resources that go into applications such as this. And we don't discredit that, but feel that this could be better used on appropriate lot sizes in town. We also understand fully the need for more housing in Ontario and saving precious farmland. However, in this case, there are developments happening on both ends of the block from our home on the corner of Wimpole Street and Highway 8, as well as on Coburg and Wimpole Street, where 60+ units are proposed to go in. We feel that the argument of adding 10 to 12 units per hectare should not be a consideration in this case, with multiple developments underway around us, offering single detached, semi-detached townhouses and apartment complexes on 12 acres, a mere 2 blocks away from where we live. These minimum of 9-meter lots are meant for places like Toronto, not Mitchell. If these types of severances are being pushed through, do we feel like that's fair for the taxpayers of West Perth? When in the bylaw, it still states 15 meters. And now we're being told those bylaws can be bent down to a minimum of 9 meters. With us as residents potentially not being able to do anything about it. We don't feel like this is right. And maybe this is something that should be newsworthy if residents are being forced into these sorts of situations. The planning and development around the water drainage is a major concern. Just as we can't prove that there will be an issue, either can the engineers. Even with careful consideration and their expertise, things can still happen and have happened. In 2020, our neighbor had their sump pump stop working for less than an hour. It took them 1 hour to replace that, and it was already too late. When that area was developed, they were assured that water wouldn't be an issue. After the fact, an easement had to be implemented back there to drain the water away from their properties, yet they still had a problem after just 1 hour. If we have water in our basement because of this, it will decrease the value of our home, because if we go to sell our home, we have to disclose that. Our home is already built off severed land from 60 Victoria Street. At the time, the existing catch basin at the front was put in to take care of the water from the neighboring properties, and we have never had a water issue, not 1 drop of water in our basement in the 13 years that we've been here. Now, if this were to go through and they put another drain at the back of the property up to the existing basin, you now have a home, concrete and stairs on top of that. If problems are to arise, how are you going to access that? And who's responsible? With very little space now between our home and the proposed house, with our downspouts facing 60 Victoria Street, there's no ground surface for the excess water to be absorbed, and the snow accumulation will be much worse. These drains will be put on private property, not maintained by the municipality, which is of great concern, considering that already Mr. Hammerley has tied in his downspouts to the existing catch basin at the front, which leaves us very concerned about the maintenance of the other drain that's going to be put on the property. Once it's all said and done, what happens when issues occur? And it, like Mike stated, who's responsible? Is it the owner that's going to be held responsible to resolve it? These questions weren't answered at the first meeting either. We should seek for a firm answer as to who will be responsible if there is water issues. It's obvious that much of this neighborhood have the same concerns, and we just don't want this to happen. We have sent messages to Mr. Hammerley regarding some of our concerns with no reply. As per the package put together for this application, you will see with the 38 signature petition against this from our neighbors that we all stand strongly in solidarity against this. The elevations of the land are already as such that 60 Victoria Street sits quite a bit higher than us at 58. There would be now 2 properties draining towards us. When our house was built, that lot was deemed 60, we are 58, the neighbor beside is 56, and so on and so forth, meaning that that property between us was never considered to be severed. With a lot that small, another driveway put in, there is now nowhere for the snow to go. Now where will people park? The street has a lot of young families, most of which have 2+ cars and plenty of visitors. The traffic volume of people using our street as a avenue to get to the dump will now be troublesome, as people will now have no other choice but to double park on both sides of that street, leaving that an extremely dangerous situation. Our home is a side split home, which means our deck and entertaining area faces 60 Victoria Street. Should this go through, a mere few feet away from our deck, we will now face the side of a house looking into windows, taking all of our privacy away, and most importantly, all of our light and airflow. We will be completely boxed in. There is no way to prove that Mr. Hammerley intends to build this for his kids. Again, once this is said and done, he has the choice to put a for sale sign up and carry on. There again, leaving us unsure of who is going to be responsible for the upkeep of those drains. It's just going to be a snowball effect and nothing but problems. We are very happy that he has the resources to put forth to provide housing for his family, and we could only hope to do the same for our kids one day, but we ask him to consider another location. We have raised our family here for the last 13 years, making wonderful relationships within our community and our neighborhood, which proves true again with us all standing in solidarity strongly against this with that 38 signature petition against it. We simply don't want this to go through. We are not trying to pull at your heartstrings or give a sob story. We simply want that 38 signature petition and our voices to be heard. We ask you to put yourself in our shoes. With all of the development happening right here in West Perth, we don't feel like this should be a consideration, and we plead that this not be approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, I don't see anyone. The applicant or applicant's agent?
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Bram, Crest Engineering. My colleague Josh couldn't make it today, so I'm just filling in for him today. Thank you, everyone. If members of the public, thank you for all of the concerns raised. We take those to heart, and we want to listen as we work and represent our client in regards to this application. We are in support, of course, of the planning report put together. Thank you for putting that together. And we've been listening to some of the concerns as we've just previously listened to. One of the things our client has done is retained a civil engineer on this project. That civil engineer has been engaged to complete a preliminary grading plan. I don't know if, I think a copy has been provided of that, as to my understanding. The proposed stormwater management catch basin is to the adjacent side of the home. It will not be interfering or going through any of the proposed home or foundation. It will be fully accessible. Some of the concerns were raised on who carries liability. Anytime any engineering firm gets involved in a project, stormwater management, or anytime an engineer seal is applied, there's a 15-year liability period for that consulting company, so that will be no different in this case. Some of the other things that our client has done is to not only get a civil engineer, but our company will be involved with completing the building permit drawings. So we will have some control over the aesthetics, the drawings, some of the other items to ensure that the home as designed complements the rest of the neighborhood. That is certainly our intent. I'm trying to see if there was any other items I wanted to touch on. As the property sits, even without severance, there are still interior setbacks for, accessory structures or other items that could have been developed on the site. Obviously, we're choosing to sever this property and for residential and intensification purposes. But we feel that we can certainly work with this property to get and meet all the requirements as per the zoning bylaws and the setbacks. So we are certainly doing our best, working together with the client to address all the concerns, to overcome those concerns as best as we can. And we are here to answer any questions and support the application in that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any members, questions, comments? Councilor McDermott?
You said on that if there was any problems in the future, the engineer would be responsible if there was some problem with the drainage.
Yeah, and basically if, so from an engineering liability perspective, anytime that we apply a stamp, this is true for not just civil engineering, but our discipline as well. There's a 15-year liability period that we carry with that. So, there's the aspects of the swim design, if you will, if those are undersized or if it's not functioning the way it should, that would carry liability for the civil engineering project for sure, yes.
Or at least the next 15.
Correct, yes.
Just on the drain that's there, would some of the concern be alleviated if it was actually turned into a municipal drain and maybe upsize the size of it?
Yeah, I'm not, part of the engineering consultant involved with the grading, so I can't speak on their behalf, but I have no problem having that discussion. I think if this is a concern, which I'm repeatedly hearing, I don't think there will be any issue oversizing these components, even more than what would be needed. But just so the committee knows as well, typically, right, on an infill lot where there's been already established grading, generally lot grading plans just happen directly with the building department. So the fact that our client has retained a civil engineer is already going a step above and beyond, which I think is good, but so we can take this to a much higher level than we would have done for a typical building permit application. It's just showing generic drainage patterns. But on this property, we could run a more in-depth stormwater management analysis, calculations, reports, all of that. So that is no problem. So,
But Mr. Free, you're absolutely right. We're the bottom rung here. So no matter what we do, the province always trumps us.
Well, I understand the provincial component of this. Just wanted on the record, the understanding others are opposed to this for various reasons, not the least of which is the drainage, but even the change in the neighborhood, and particularly with the construction and proposal of so much building just at the end of the field. Like they're going to put in a humongous development in there. It's going to increase all the traffic in that area. And, we want to save for the kids.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you there, Mr. Free. That's not relevant to this application, so. Okay. Any other committee members? Councilor McKenzie?
Yes, I'm wondering if you can maybe, and it's along with Hugh's questions with regards to drainage. Are you aware of the size of the tile that's currently there? And what is going to be updated? What size will the tile be? I know you're putting a catch basin at the back, which should certainly be an improvement. But are you able to tell us how much of an update or increased size the new tile will be?
I can only, I have limited knowledge on that because I've been looking at this. just quite recently, but from what I understand, or at least the proposed pipe will be 150 mil PVC pipe coming from a new catch basin onto the property towards the front. And yeah, no, that's what I have showing on this plan currently. So like whatever was there will be replaced with this new infrastructure. But no, I do not know the existing side.
So you notice I have gray hair, so can you tell me what that is in inches?
Oh, that's fine. If you take the 150 mils and then you divide by 25.4, you get close to 6 inches. So
Okay, okay. The other issue that has come up is about snow removal or where they're gonna put the snow. And I don't know if you're prepared to address that question.
I can speculate, but I think that in terms of snow, like the catch basin will, based on this grading plan, would appear that everything's being directed to that for anything in the back, the rear of the property. And then on the front of the property, you'll have your generic sloping towards to the roadside.
But
So
in the wintertime, when everything's froze and we get a storm similar to what we did this year at Christmas time, is there room on the property to contain all that stuff?
yes, and I think the catch basin then creates that barrier through the frost and will allow even drainage in those freeze and thaw cycles, you know, where you have that risk of the surface being frozen and that absorption not happening. So that's the reason that's why the catch basin is brought to the rear of the property. Yes.
Dean?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I guess I have a kind of a laundry list of comments and questions, so I'll try and get through them as cleanly as possible. The question of or the comment made by Julie Bree that this should go somewhere else that's meant for Toronto and not Mitchell. It's already happening in Mitchell. It's already happening in Mitchell. It's happening in other parts of Perth County as well. So although I'm sympathetic to the concerns, it is happening. And according to Bill 23, there is an as of right provision that if not for a severance, the existing property could accommodate an addition to the existing residence. So whether it's a severance with a dwelling unit or retaining the current parcel with an additional residential unit, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I would draw attention to the fact on Victoria Street that there are several residences very close together, including to the east of 58 Victoria. And all up and down Victoria, it's quite common to see residences close together, no different than what's being proposed here. To say that bylaws are being bent and that it's not fair, there may be the appearance of inequity and unfairness. But reality is that there already are bylaw provisions being modified, not only in new subdivisions, but in existing properties to accommodate modifications to properties such as this one. As for the concerns of the downspout issue, that's the building department in conjunction with the bylaw officers would deal with that concern. Parking, the planning department in Jerica Gilbert's report, she already indicated that the parking, after review of the proposal, the parking needs were satisfied. I guess my question is how is this proposed severance going to be any different than what's already existing currently in Mitchell? So what makes this so different that it should not be considered by this committee for approval? Because if we were to deny this application, then the applicant, if I understand from the planning department correctly, they have the right of appeal. The right of appeal would be very expensive, and odds are that the applicant would win that appeal. So I understand the public's concerns about wanting to be heard. I have listened, I've read the material. I've reviewed the material. I've driven up and down the street about half a dozen times. So please don't think for a moment that I haven't considered this application very carefully, but I'm just questioning how this application is no different than others that have gone through. So I'm having a hard time trying to decide why, or trying to figure out why this should be denied. So I don't know if someone from planning or the public can answer those questions or not, but those are the things that are on my mind here, so.
So I guess I'm gonna direct. I'm not sure who to direct those questions to, Councillor Trentowski. I hate to turn this into a back and forth session, so. Does planning have any other comments, Jerica, with regards to Councillor Trentowski's?
Through you to the chair, I think our councillor's comments are astute and in line with what I feel like as a planner is the case. The reality is that all our communities in Perth County and across the province are facing a housing affordability crisis. And the province has made steps in order to ensure that we can address that crisis in any ways we can. And it is definitely something that is taking place in our new residential subdivisions. But the reality is we won't be able to meet our housing targets just through new development alone. So redevelopment and intensification are a key part of the puzzle. And another part of that puzzle that isn't happening with this application, but we will eventually need to go back to those zoning bylaws, which were made in a different time when the needs of our community were different, to facilitate some of those changes. So I definitely feel for the residents in this scenario because it is a change, but I don't think it's unreasonable for a single detached house to be permitted in a single detached neighborhood. And that's my only further comments.
Okay, thank you. Does any of the committee members have anything further? Nothing, Jim? Okay. All right, I guess at this point then.
Actually, the planners made a recommendation and I fully support it, to be honest with you. And I think Councillor Trentowski also said this will get appealed and it's not winnable. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't support this application at this point.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
And I would make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the motion. Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B1223 60 Victoria Street report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approve the application for consent to sever B1223 submitted by Hans Emmermelli, affecting lands described as Part Block B, Plan 349, 60 Victoria Street, Mitchell Ward, Municipality of West Perth, subject to the conditions within the report. And that is moved by Councillor Aitchison, seconded by Councillor McDermott. Any more questions or comments from the committee? All those in favor? That's carried. All right, we'll move to reports. Senate file status report, item 6.1. No?
Okay, so since our last report and as of July 23rd, we've had 6 new consent applications. We have 15 applications that are currently in process and 3 that have been approved through the delegated authority process. 5 applications have received final approval for which a certificate of official was sent. And currently there are 6 applications that are on hold until the applicant for their solicitor compare the additional materials or studies required. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions? All right. I have a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the consent file status report. Moved by Council McDermott, seconded by Council Aitchison. All those in favor? It's carried. We don't have any correspondence. We don't have any appeals. Any other business? Committee members? Don't see any. No closed session. So the next meeting date is August 28th, 2023. So I have a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee be adjourned at approximately 10:30 a.m. Moved by Councilor McKenzie, seconded by Councilor Tomkowski. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.